Yo, what's up, Headliner Nation? If you missed it the other evening, Jake and I went live for our top 50 player rankings for the 2024 season, talking about every single position except for the quarterbacks. Those are separate rankings right now, and giving you guys a little bit of live feedback as we were going through the rankings. Now, if you missed it, or if you need to rewatch it for any reason, we've decided now to post it as a standalone video. So if you watched the live stream the other evening, this is going to be the same information. If for some reason you missed it, here's our top 50 rankings. Jake and I give you a player-by-player breakdown with each of our opinion. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe if you're finding one of our videos for the first time. And hopefully you enjoy the rankings. Let us know down in the comments if there's anything that you would change and how you would change it.
I say we just head right into some rankings. Let's talk about our top 50 overall rankings.
I say we get into the top 50, and we want to keep you hanging on for a few minutes, so we're going to go backwards. Let's start with number 41 and work our way through, well, 50 through 41, excuse me.
50 through 41, I got
50
you.
50 through 41, and we'll start at 50 and work our way up here. Trey McBride from Arizona. I don't really care who they've added. Trey McBride should still see a lot of volume.
Yeah, a lot of people are going to wonder, like, hey, does Zay Jones signing today really hurt Trey McBride? No. If Zay Jones hurts anyone, it's probably Michael Wilson. Second-year wide receiver Michael Wilson probably sees the biggest hit to a target share. Trey McBride is going to feast this year.
Alvin Kamara at number 49, when he came back last season, saw a ton of targets and people got super excited. But the problem was it was probably his first year in terms of being really bad efficiency-wise on the ground.
Yeah, it's like he got the ball up, but he didn't go anywhere with it. Kyle, it was great to get the touches, didn't do anything with it. Ever since Dennis Allen has pretty much taken over there as a head coach, we haven't seen super high ceiling Alvin Kamara.
No, we have not. Devon Achane at number 48, and I know he is a top 12 darling running back for a lot of people right now.
A lot of people.
But Raheem Mostert, I mean, he's not going to go anywhere. Maybe he doesn't get as many touches as last year, but he's not going to completely disappear. And Jalen Wright, my running back one in this draft class, also lands in Miami. Devon Achane, can he stay healthy all season?
And they still have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. They brought in OBJ, Jonnu Smith at the tight end position. For me, the biggest reason he's a little bit lower for me, can he stay healthy? I mean, he is a difference maker when he's healthy, but are we going to see kind of every single year what we saw last year where he's kind of hit and miss week to week? That's why I've got him drop down a little bit for sure.
At number 47, Malik Neighbors. Now, I love Malik Neighbors.
We do. We love him.
I think he's a Jamar Chase clone for the most part.
I agree.
And I mean, no disrespect to Malik Neighbors by having him outside my top 24 wide receivers and at number 47 overall.
Nope.
But I don't like Daniel Jones.
Nope, me neither. And I don't know if anyone out there can be like, you know who I really love? Daniel Jones. There isn't anybody out there that's saying that, Kyle. And that is terrifying. And
even the Giants fans that want to defend him still aren't saying how much they like him.
Yeah, that's exactly right. They're like, everybody's like, damn it, we got Daniel Jones as our quarterback. You know, that's the biggest problem. I think he's going to get force-fed targets, which is definitely a reason to keep him up inside the top 48. Are they going to be catchable? Completely different question.
Let's talk about 45 and 46 together at the same time because they're from the same team. Mark Andrews and Zay Jones. It will be interesting to see if this offense kind of moves back to being a little bit more run-centered like it was a few years back or for the majority of Lamar Jackson's career with Derrick Henry being there now, or if they still light it up through the air as much as they did last year.
Yeah, I mean, we've been saying for years we need to get some high-end weapons for Lamar Jackson. Zay Flowers has pretty much been the only one we've added here in recent time that has done anything. Rashad Bateman, cool. I haven't seen anything from him to get excited. Mark Andrews has been dealing with injuries now for multiple years. That's why he's dropped down a little bit. But Zay Flowers is going to lead the team in targets at the wide receiver position and is definitely one of those guys that may not be a weekly winner for you, Kyle, but I can kind of see him being one of those guys that hovers right around 10 to 12 fantasy points a game.
Absolutely. James Cook at number 44. Now, At times last year, we were really asking ourselves, Buffalo, why are you not giving him more touches?
More touches. Give him the ball.
And I don't necessarily think that he was a loser in this draft either. When you take a look at really the competition around him going into this year, it's going to be James Cook. And then you've got Ray Davis that was drafted after him. Not bad. Frank Gore Jr. was drafted after him. Okay, but he's probably more of a depth player right now, and there's not really as many weapons there as what we've seen in the past.
No, and ever since the change in offensive coordinator to Joe Brady, we started to see more and more James Cook, and I'm hoping that's what we see here, starting the season in 2024. It's not something we have to wait 8 to 10 weeks to see it. So, yeah, James Cook here at number 44 is definitely a guy who I don't want to be my running back one, but I'm okay if he's my number 2.
Ramondre Stevenson season at number 43. I anticipate a bounce back campaign for him.
Forgot about him.
Yeah, the quarterback position should be much more steady this year than it was last year with Drake May. And at the end of last season, right before his injury, Stevenson came on at the end of the year and really started to look a whole lot better. Antonio Gibson probably sees a little bit of work. That's why I don't have him inside the top 12 running backs and why I have him here at 43.
There's a whole lot of question marks with the ball catching position in New England, Kyle. We got so many mid-wide receivers there. We don't really know which one's going to take off. A lot of people forgot about Kendrick Bourne and Demario Douglas. We know about the couple rookies they brought in with Jalen Polk and Javon Baker. We have Hunter Henry still. Juju's still there. A lot of options, but we have no idea who's going to see targets. But the best friend of a rookie quarterback is a good running game, and that's why I think a lot of people are sleeping on Ramondre Stevenson.
T. Higgins at number 42, and I guess it's still possible that he could be traded. I doubt it at this point, but if he doesn't go into 2024 with a new contract, we've seen him miss time over the last couple of years with injuries. Does that happen again where he's like, you know what, I really don't want to push myself back because I want that new contract next year?
Entirely possible. The thing that's keeping me on board with T. Higgins is Tyler Boyd is gone. He's in Tennessee now, which really means T. Higgins and Jamar Chase have a chance at a huge target share with Joe Burrow being back and healthy.
In number 41, it's going to be Kenneth Walker, but who's the backup to Kenneth Walker, Jake?
Zach Charbonnet. Hey!
You were so loud, it stopped. It cut out.
That was such a good one too. I almost passed out from that one.
That was a good one. I could see the blood rushing to your face.
Dude, I was running out of air.
Is Zach Charbonnet going to hurt Kenneth Walker? I don't think so, because I think it's still clear that Charbonnet is the RB2 in that offense and Kenneth Walker is the RB1. I think we're more concerned about the fact is whether or not Kenneth Walker can stay healthy for a full season.
That's the biggest question right there, is the talent, the opportunity, the touches. That's not the problem. Keeping him on the field is an absolute problem, and especially when you have a capable backup. A lot of people look at Kenneth Walker as somebody they can ride in 2024. I'm not one of those guys, Kyle. I got him a little bit lower than some.
Let's move on. Number 40 through 31. We're going to start with George Pecan. George Pickens out of Pittsburgh. Yeah, the volume might be there. What?
You said George Pecan, and I'm like,
George Pecan.
Who the hell was he talking about? Got it.
I'm trying to put that fancy twist on the name that we like to do. It doesn't really work with him. It
doesn't work with Pickens, really. No.
George Pickens out of Pittsburgh. We'll probably see a lot of volume this year, but the question is Arthur Smith. I mean, the reason that I'm not more invested in Pittsburgh's offense is because Arthur Smith couldn't figure out Drake London and Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson. How is he going to figure out this offense?
But everyone wants to point to his time in Tennessee, right?
When he had Derrick Henry.
And he had A.J. Brown. But A.J. Brown had, 70 catches for 1,000 yards.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. That's a solid season, especially for a young A.J. Brown. But it's not like a crazy high ceiling.
Yep.
The only reason I still like Pickens kind of right here at the number 40 spot is the big playability that he has means that he can probably be one of those wide receivers that survives without getting huge volume. So even if he doesn't get huge volume, if he can get a couple big plays, which he's definitely good. We know he can go out there and get the 50-50 ball. So, I mean, he has an opportunity. He may just kind of be a little bit of a headache this year.
Cooper Kupp at number 39. We know when he's on the field, the production is going to be there. but he's got competition in Puka Nacua, who is now an established top-end wide receiver at the NFL level, and Kupp continues to be banged up by injuries. Oh, by the way, Matthew Stafford has issues with injuries as well.
Kupp is on the wrong side of 30,
yes,
right? And so am I, right? Don't worry, Cooper. I'm right there. I'm on the wrong side of 40, damn it. But you know what? I think what it is a lot of people see Cooper Kupp and they want the repeat of 3 years ago. And it's just a totally different scenario. Kyren Williams is a very capable running back in the backfield. Demarcus Robinson is a great wide receiver 3 on this team that nobody even talks about. And now with Puka being able to handle the workload that he can handle, I love Kupp still. I think he's still going to be a wide receiver 2, but he's not going to be a top 3 guy like he has been in the past.
At number 38, Devontae Smith. Yeah, it's cool that he got a new contract this offseason, but guess who also got a new contract? That would be my boy, A.J. Brown. 2 years now in Philadelphia, and the argument that, Devontae Smith is going to take over as the wide receiver 1 still hasn't happened. A.J. Brown is still going to be the main guy to own that offense. Devontae Smith is going to have some good games. He's going to disappear some games. You still have Dallas Goedert. There's the fanciness. And, by the way, you've added Saquon Barkley this year.
That's a
maybe
big
running the ball a little bit more.
Yeah. I mean, nothing against DeAndre Swift, but he wasn't really a high-volume guy that can take over games weekly. Saquon is that guy. We just don't remember it because it's been so long since we've seen it because he's been buried in New York. Now behind that offensive line and that offense, maybe some of the touchdowns we've seen go the way of Devontae Smith just turn into big-time Saquon Barkley runs.
At number 37, Amari Cooper. Now with Amari Cooper, when Deshaun Watson's on the field, we know Watson is going to be looking towards Cooper. Those guys are connected. But also Deshaun Watson really hasn't been that good since arriving in Cleveland. How long is he going to stay on the field? And they've added Jerry Jeudy this year. You still have David Njoku. And we're not 100% sure what the run game is going to look like because Nick Chubb is still kind of up in the air right now.
There's one reason I still like Amari Cooper, and it's quarterback insurance. And damn it, Jameis Winston is the backup in Cleveland, and we've seen Jameis sling that rock before. So if anything happens, he's going to be a guy that will lock onto his number 1 guy like Amari Cooper. It's maybe not to the level of a Deshaun Watson type of target share, but still, it's better than having to rely on Brian Hoyer or something.
If we went back in time 3 years, and I told you at that time, Jake, one point in 2024, you're going to say, the reason I like Amari Cooper still, would you have believed that you would have said that sentence?
Being that we're saying it at 37th overall, I can somewhat. And now, if I would ever say that inside my top 24, then I've been kidnapped and I'm in desperate need of help.
There was a time when you were never Amari and Amari Pooper.
Yeah, Amari Pooper was a thing here. But you know what? Like we've said for a long time, Kyle, we will not hang on. We will not just hang on a certain feeling except for Daniel Jones. That's exactly right. I stand corrected. There is Daniel Jones, but he hasn't given us a reason to change our mind. If players, help their situation, by all means, we're going to be the first ones to come out and try to get ahead of the competition when it comes to stuff like that.
Number 36, DK Metcalf. I don't know about you. I don't trust Geno Smith to make it a full year. I almost would rather see Sam Howell at this point. You still have Tyler Lockett. JSN could be in for that kind of sophomore step up. And we already talked about Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. Both of those guys could end up really propelling the run game, and they could stick to being a run-heavy offense with the new coaching staff in town.
Yep, new coaching staff, right? It's no longer Pete Carroll. I think the step up of JSN is really the biggest concern for me when it comes to DK Metcalf. If he starts to get more volume, DK is kind of a volume guy. He kind of needs some of that volume with Geno because he's not going down the field as much. So that could be a little bit of a situation if JSN pops off early.
At 35, we're going to go with Isaiah Pacheco out of Kansas City. I love him as a super safe running back this year. Speed with Xavier Worthy on the outside. Speed with Marquise Brown on the outside. Travis Kelce over the middle of the field. You got Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. Rashee Rice, at this point, it's looking less and less likely he's going to play this year. But even if he doesn't, they still have some upgraded weapons at wide receiver, which will help the run game.
Yeah, I mean, Isaiah Pacheco runs so hard, and I'm going to talk about him in an upcoming video. I love the style of running, but it just leads to too many nagging injuries. And by the time the end of the season comes around, The dude is like held together with half chewed purple now and later's, used ace bandages, and rusty paper clips, Kyle. And that is a recipe for disaster. Now, once they get to the real life NFL playoffs, all bets are off and dude goes crazy. But towards the end of the season, he starts to wear down each and every year.
And we're going to go with number 34, Jalen Waddle. There's one point in time when we were like, Jalen Waddle has wide receiver 1 upside, even if it's a low-end wide receiver 1. But then Tyreek Hill's put together back-to-back years of 1,700 receiving yards, is clearly the alpha in that offense. The run game took a step forward this year. So Jalen Waddle, I think we need to go from high-end expectations to more safe expectations, and that's why he's here.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, adding Odell Beckham, whether he plays all season or not, having the big-time running backs in the backfield with Raheem, I'm now a must-start Mostert and Devin Achane, Jalen Wright. There's just so many options that Jalen Waddle doesn't have to be the guy each week. And as much as I love Jalen Waddle and want him to be the guy, we got to be a little bit realistic here and drop him down a few spots.
We've got teammates at 32 and 33. Nico Collins, one of our big breakout candidates that we loved last year. That ended up hitting. Stefon Diggs, the new guy in town as well. I've got both of these guys over Tank Dell. Tank Dell should be good to go by the beginning of the season, but with those nasty leg breaks, that sometimes it can take you a little bit to kind of really get your feet under yourself in live game action still. I think Diggs sees a little bit more consistent targets than what Nico does, but we saw the big play potential from Nico last year. That dude can score from anywhere on the field.
Yeah, and really, it's kind of like, oh, well, you like Diggs more than Collins or Collins. We got to kind of look at this as a whole overall offense. Both of these guys are going to have matchup winning weeks, both of them. It's just not going to be every single week, and it's going to be a headache trying to figure out which week is which guy, because it's not going to be like something where we can count on Nico Collins every week for this, and we can count on Stefon Diggs. No, because Tank Dell's going to have something to say about it as well. It's going to be a absolute headache with the pass catchers of Houston. From an NFL perspective, get ready, get your popcorn ready. It's going to be great to watch, but it's going to be a fantasy nightmare.
DJ Moore at number 31 didn't have that bad of a season last year with Justin Fields, but he loses some of that upside. You brought in Keenan Allen, you drafted Rome Odunze, you've got Cole Kmet there still. You're probably going to see some dump-offs to DeAndre Swift out of the backfield, and there are still question marks about that Bears offensive line. It could end up getting better, but I don't know if it's reached the point of just having consistent protection that we would like. I got to just drop him down a little bit because of that this year.
Yeah, DJ Moore was the only show in town for the most part last year, regardless of who the quarterback was. Whether it was Tyson Bagent or it was Justin Fields, it didn't really matter. We knew that each week DJ Moore was probably going to be the focal point of the offense. We cannot say that anymore. We have the rookie quarterback in Caleb Williams. Keenan Allen, we know he's a safe, reliable option underneath. He could eat up targets early. Rome Odunze is definitely, if it wasn't for Moore and Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze would probably be right in this same spot overall for us. I love the talent the kid has. He's going to have the eye of Caleb Williams, but it's the target share that we're worried about. DJ Moore probably still the more established guy in the offense, but it may not be as consistent as it has been.
Odunze could be a top 12 dynasty wide receiver next season if Keenan Allen were to retire or move on after his contract is done. Well, all right, let's keep it moving on. We're going to toss up 30 through 21 on the screen now. At number 30, I'm going to go with Deebo Samuel. He's the weapon in that offense. They love to use him like it. Brandon Ayuk is still there as of right now. I don't think anything changes before the season, though. I think they'll all be together.
Yeah, I think what we've seen for the last couple of years is just going to happen again, right? It's going to be an embarrassment of riches. Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle. They got plenty of options in this offense. I love the addition. In the draft, they went out and got Ricky Pearsall, and he's definitely a guy that if he can get an opportunity, he's going to surprise a lot of people. I think we're going to see a lot of big games, hit and miss from Deebo. We're going to have a lot of bust games from Deebo like we have before, but by the end of the season, he's going to be a top 30 player.
It's that way for that entire offense. One week, they're going to win you a week. The next week, you're going to be wanting to smash your head against a window pane. At number 29, Josh Jacobs. We're going to have quite a few running backs this season that are going to be in line for decent volume. I think a lot more than what we've seen over the last 2 or 3 years. Josh Jacobs is one of those guys. My question mark is, does that offense grow? I know people love what they're doing right now, and I agree with it. I like Jordan Love. But the wide receivers aren't the elite wide receivers we see from some teams across the field. So does Jordan Love continue to get better? He needs to if Jacobs is going to have a big year.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing for Jacobs is now he's finally on a team that can put some points on the board, which is good. It's going to give him a higher touchdown upside. And when the weather gets cold in Green Bay, they rely on the run a lot more. I'm hoping that's when Jacobs can thrive and be somebody down the stretch for your fantasy playoffs you can count on.
Joe Mixon, I mean, this dude went from being in a really crappy position to a great position to a crappy position to a great position, because he was on a really good team with a really good offense.
Yep.
And then free agency starts, and all of a sudden they sign Zach Moss, and you're like, what's going to happen? And all of the running backs get signed, and then they're like, oh, we're going to release Joe Mixon. And it's like, who's he going to sign with? But then Houston, and this is the big factor here, Houston jumps in and says, we want to trade for Mixon before he hits free agency. They clearly wanted him. They restructured his deal, gave him a new 3-year contract, and he is with CJ Stroud, the ton of weapons in that offense, and probably a better offensive line than what Cincinnati has. We could see him get back to some of those top tier numbers we saw a couple years ago.
Yeah, and you look at this overall offense, right? And we just talked about all the wide receivers. If this team has more second half leads, we're going to see so much Joe Mixon. Now, a lot of people want to look at the Houston offensive line and be like, they're great. And honestly, they're not great. They have an awesome offensive or left tackle there with Laremy Tunsil. Outside of that, we have some underperformers that need to step the hell up. And if they don't, we're going to be in trouble. The reason that they didn't look half bad last year is CJ Stroud made them look really good. But Joe Mixon is going to have an opportunity at so many touchdowns this year. I don't know if the efficiency is going to be any better than what we've seen in years past, but the potential for touchdown scoring and volume is still going to be there.
Offensive line for Houston also banged up for a majority of last season too. Let's keep our fingers crossed they can stay healthy. Moving on to number 27, Rachaad White, and he's probably one of the most volatile player in our rankings because Jake and I are in a complete agreement with Rachaad White. He was propped up by receiving work and touchdowns last year. He was awful when it came to his metrics on the ground, and people are going to argue he scored fantasy points. I don't care, and that's fine, but you have to use some of these metrics as potential predictors. And Bucky Irving, they're speaking a lot of really good praise about him right now. He could cut into a lot of that passing work.
100%. And if he loses that passing work, there goes the ceiling for Rachaad White. That's the problem. He's still going to get a ton of volume, still going to get all the goal line work. Not saying he's not going to. He's probably still going to get 15 to 18 touches a week. But if he's inefficient on the ground and he doesn't get the pass catching work, we may be in a little trouble.
Yeah, Rachaad White is definitely, if I had to place money on any of these guys you see on the screen right now, he'd be the one guy that I think would fall outside the top 30. Drake London at number 26, and for some reason I put Arizona instead of Atlanta, so my apologies to Drake London. He's not in Arizona, he's in Atlanta. Drake London could end up getting a ton of targets this year, and really that's why everyone is excited. Kirk Cousins is a huge step up from what they had last year. Great run game. He's the wide receiver one.
There goes Kyle, putting him in there. I mean, for a second, I thought there was a trade I didn't hear about, and I was pumped for a second. I almost went back on the Arizona Cardinals bandwagon. But, yeah, improved quarterback play, new coaching staff, minimal guys to really – are we really worried about Darnell Mooney or Rondale Moore? Not really. I think Drake London has that opportunity to go out there and at least get volume, and when he's gotten volume in the past, he's definitely produced.
Let's talk about our tight end 1 and 2 at number 24 and 25, Sam Laporta and Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce getting that help back on the outside, that speed back on the outside that they haven't had since Tyreek Hill left is going to do wonders for him over the middle of the field. This is really tight end 1A and 1B for me. Sam Laporta, someone the other day argued that the only reason Laporta finished as high as he did last year is because he scored 10 touchdowns. If you take away 5 of those touchdowns, he still would have been the tight end 5 on the season, over 80 receptions, almost over 800 receiving yards. The dude was a monster all over the field. Both of these guys really are probably going to be looked at late second, early third round.
Yeah, and a lot of people got burned by Travis Kelce last year just
Mhm.
due to the down season from Travis Kelce. But now we don't know about Rashee Rice, and we have a team on the verge of wanting to go back to back to back. And you better believe if Mahomes is at any point looking for a miracle down the field, it's going to Travis Kelce. Like that's going to be where he goes majority of the time. Sam Laporta is probably the future at the position as of right now, just because of the offense that he's in. A high-powered passing offense. We haven't seen Jameson Williams take that step forward yet. It's been Amon-Ra St. Brown and then Sam Laporta. I don't see that changing in the passing game, and that's why both these guys, verge top 24.
At number 23, excuse me, Devontae Adams. Are we going to see more consistency from him? I think that's the thing. You have to assume that this new coaching staff understands we need to get the ball to our superstars. And Antonio Pierce said that at times last season when he took over. We have superstars on this team. We need to get the ball to them. But who's going to be throwing the ball to him? Gardner Minshew? That would be best case scenario. Will Aiden O'Connell end up winning it? Is Zamir White really going to be the answer at running back for Las Vegas? Because if he's not, that team becomes really one-dimensional. Devontae Adams worries me a little bit. The upside may not be there, but I hope the floor is, kind of like we saw with Michael Pittman and Gardner Minshew last year.
Yeah, I'm hoping that the guard dog can come on out here and just feed Devontae Adams. Now we have multiple tight ends on the team to throw it to now because they took Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer last year. Jacoby Myers is a name to not forget about. But Devontae Adams still probably going to be the guy they look at most consistently, being that we saw Michael Pittman be that consistent number one last year from Gardner Minshew. I'm hoping that Adams gets the similar treatment, and that's why he's at 23.
And at 22, the guy we just talked about, Michael Pittman. He's not an inspiring wide receiver. He's not a wide receiver that makes your loins tingle with fire. He's the type of wide receiver that you want to marry because you know everything's going to turn out right, going to be super safe. You're not going to have to worry about a whole lot of drama. It's just going to be a nice, easy marriage. That's what he is.
Yeah, exactly right. And I mean, I have no issues. Michael Pittman. I mean, obviously we have Adonai Mitchell, who was just added. Josh Downs is there. Alec Pierce is there. JT going to eat this year. The offensive line should be good to go. Overall, a great offense. I think Michael Pittman may turn into one of those guys who's not like the sexiest guy to have in your lineup, but just a guy who gets it done each week.
And a guy that was super sexy, Mike, last year that people really didn't anticipate happening was Mike Evans with Baker Mayfield. Now, I think we ended up being a little bit higher on Mike Evans.
You're damn right we did. I told everybody to draft that guy.
Because we were like, the Bake Show may be coming back this year. Let's give him a little bit of credit. And it ended up happening. So good thing for Baker Mayfield. Glad to see him back. Earns that big contract. Mike Evans could have gone wherever he wanted to in free agency, and he decided to stay in Tampa Bay with the Bake Show. I think that tells you a lot about that relationship.
100%. And the fact that we saw Baker lean on him all season long, why is it going to change now, right? Don't fix what's not broke. And right now, Mike Evans is not broke. Having him this high is no shock to me.
Moving on, number 11 through number 20. At number 20, Chris Olave. Now, I feel like New Orleans didn't really know how to utilize him last year. They were just sending him down the field on a lot of go routes, and that's not Chris Olave. In my video the other day, my wide receiver rankings, I actually compared his career path to potentially CeeDee Lamb.
I mean,
because I feel like they did a lot of the same things with CeeDee Lamb when he came into the league. It was like, run down the field and we'll find you somewhere. But then he grew, moved into the slot, moved outside, grew his route tree, used him all over. That's what they need to do with Chris Olave.
That I agree with. And now we have no Michael Thomas, really no one else outside of Chris Olave to really eat into a large target share. Hopefully this is the year. Derek Carr needs to get his crap together. I know he dealt with shoulder injuries last year. If he can stay healthy this year, maybe we see what we expected from 2023.
Yep. Brandon Ayuk at number 19 out of San Francisco. Kind of the same thing we said with Debo. Now, Ayuk has more upside for me. He's a big play threat all over the field. And because of that, I'm going to give him a nod inside the top 20. I do think a potential big year could be coming for him because he is the guy where Debo, Kittle, and Christian McCaffrey really control the short and intermediate part of the field. It leaves Brandon Ayuk with a lot of one-on-ones down the field.
He doesn't need like 10 targets a game to have a big game. You know, I mean, he's a guy who can go there, get 3 or 4 receptions and win you a fantasy week because it turned into 126 yards and 2 touchdowns. And that's kind of why we have Brandon Ayuk where we do.
At number 18, Saquon Barkley. I mean, he's definitely in a better offense.
100%.
Definitely behind a better offensive line.
100%.
Now, does he lose some touchdowns on the ground? Absolutely, I think he does. I don't think the tush push goes anywhere, even with Jason Kelce retiring. So I think he maybe loses a few of those touchdowns that we would like him to have. And I also don't think he gets the passing work that we've been used to. When I look at Saquon this year, I feel really good about him being a very safe running back, even if he doesn't have those top 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks that we had become accustomed to.
I always refer back to an interview that I saw with Jason Kelce last year where he was talking to DeAndre Swift, and he said, dude, don't ever go down because you're not going to get the touchdown. Like, you just know what's going to happen. And I look at Saquon Barkley as the guy that may be able to push the pile a little bit and get in and maybe take away some of those brotherly shove opportunities. Now, of course, they're not going to abandon that play altogether until the NFL bans it for whatever reason or whenever that happens. But he's definitely somebody that I think a lot of people see Saquon Barkley and they can't get out of their head what they've seen the last few years in New York because it's been so bad. Talent-wise, this guy could be the number one overall running back. If you told me right now, Jake, at the end of 2024, Saquon finishes as RB1 overall, like, I wouldn't be shocked at that. Not at all.
Nope, not at all. At number 17, Travis Etienne. And really, these two guys for me are kind of interchangeable. And really, a lot of these running backs on the screen right now are interchangeable. If you were to argue one over the other in another spot, I probably wouldn't disagree with your argument all that much. At number 17 with Travis Etienne, the reason I'm going with him one spot higher is just because we've seen it. And he's really a catalyst for that offense. His efficiency dropped quite a bit last year, but the volume was still there. And I think we do see the efficiency get a little bit better this year with some added weapons on the outside that might be a little bit more consistent than what Calvin Ridley was.
Yeah, like when a player kind of shows you what they are, just kind of believe it, right? Not enough has changed in Jacksonville for me to look at Etienne and say, well, there's no chance he's going to do that again. You know, I mean, yeah, sure, they don't have Calvin Ridley, but they've drafted Brian Thomas Jr. They brought in Gabe Davis. They still have Evan Ingram and Christian Kirk. He's going to have an opportunity at touchdowns, and he's going to be involved in a weekly game plan for a high-powered, high-scoring offense. There's not much more you can ask for.
Good to go with Marvin Harrison Jr. at number 16. And I even asked Jake, take your fandom out of it for a second.
Yep.
Am I too high on Marvin Harrison?
Nope.
Maybe his upside, his big playability isn't what some of what the top wide receivers might see. But even with the addition today of Zay Jones, I don't think that hurts Marvin Harrison all that much. Dude could be in for a huge target season.
I mean, he could easily see 140 plus this year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, okay, so they have Zay Jones and Michael Wilson. We love Trey McBride, but this is a team that's not very good. Their defense is not going to be very good. They're going to be losing every single week. They're going to have to throw it every single week. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. has an opportunity to put it. We've seen DeAndre Hopkins with Kyler Murray before. We've seen that type of wide receiver in this offense before. I think 16 right here is absolutely possible.
And we have a run on running backs right now.
Total
at
run.
Number 15, Derrick Henry. Same face, new place, better place.
Better place. Yep.
Ooh, we could see a renaissance here for sure.
100%. I've said it before. I may expect slightly lower yardage numbers for Derrick Henry, but I could see the touchdown numbers going. I mean, he could be flirting with 20 this year.
Yeah,
I mean,
it could be insane.
If they could just get down the field, Derrick Henry could absolutely feast being the main guy in that backfield. A lot of people want to bring up like Keaton Mitchell. Sure, he could get some touches this year. He's not going to take away.
Though. He got injured last year.
Yeah, he's not going to take away anything from Derrick Henry. So he definitely has an opportunity to have a renaissance year.
And there might be some people that say, well, wait a second. Why do you think Derrick Henry is going to score so much with Lamar Jackson when you think Saquon could lose some to Jalen Hurts? Let's keep in mind that Baltimore does not deploy that tush-push play that Philadelphia does. So it's two completely different scenarios. Kyren Williams at number 14. Listen, I'm a Michigan fan. You can't see it behind me, but I've got my posters hanging up. And Blake Corum,
you got D's everywhere in your office.
Smack dab on the middle of one of those posters. And I love Blake Corum, one of the greatest players in Michigan football history. He's not ruining Kyren Williams. Please do not let anybody out there tell you that Kyron Williams is going to lose enough fantasy points that we shouldn't be looking at him. Sean McVay has already shown us over the course of his coaching career he likes a one running back system. Let's fire up Kyron Williams once again.
And Sean McVay also said this offseason after the draft, the whole reason we took Blake Corum is he's very similar in play style to Kyron Williams. So if anything happens to Kyron, plug and play. Next guy comes in and the offense doesn't change.
Yep. I mean, Corum's going to see some touches. He's going to help with the workload. Kyron Williams is still RB1 in my opinion. Jonathan Taylor at number 13. Hopefully Anthony Richardson can stay healthy for an entire season, because if he can, this is going to be an exciting duo in that backfield. Taylor got his new contract. He should be ready to go to start the season. Hopefully he just stays healthy. Missed some time again last year, unfortunately.
Yeah, great offensive line for him to run behind there. An opportunity to start the year healthy, which is not something he had last year. I think Jonathan Taylor could surprise a lot of people here in 2024.
At number 12, Jahmyr Gibbs. Woo, I tell you what, Jake, how many people last year were like weeks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like, oh my gosh, I spent a pick on Jahmyr Gibbs and it's not going to work out. And then boom, we said, wait on it. It will take some time. And it did. He's the guy. David Montgomery is just living in Jahmyr Gibbs' world. They're both going to coexist together. But Jahmyr Gibbs, we saw what he could do at the end of the season.
Now, I know I've mentioned offensive lines a lot. I don't think I have ever, in my years of doing this, Kyle, graded an offensive line higher than that of the current offensive line for the Lions.
Oh, my gosh.
They are the number one offensive line, and it is not even it's not even remotely close. So, yeah, both these guys can coexist. Demon's going to get touches each and every week. Jahmyr Gibbs going to be a big playmaker in this offense, and what we saw last year, it's probably going to continue in this year.
All right, the last one before we get to the top 10, Puka Nacua at number 11. Last season, I mean, a guy that realistically came out of nowhere. A few people may have been talking about him before the season, but really he was a name that wasn't drafted anywhere. And because of that, he was the waiver wire winner of the season. But there was a point last season where we looked at each other and said, does Cooper Kupp coming back hurt Puka Nacua? And guess what? It didn't.
I mean, 160 some targets for Puka. I mean, that may not happen again, but he's going to be right around 140 each and every year. I agree that he flew under the radar for sure last year, but if it wasn't for remember last offseason, nobody really knew what was going on with Cooper Kupp. Was he going to be ready? Was he going to miss 2 weeks? Was he going to miss 6 weeks? Was he going to be out to the middle of the season? Like, there were so many questions, and it was really the perfect storm. Like, Kyron Williams missed some time too. There was a perfect storm for Puka to have the year that he did. I'm not going to expect that each and every year, but he's definitely a guy that can go out each and every season. And I'm going to pretty much pencil him in for right around 1,300 yards a year.
Yep. To me, he feels a lot like Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yep.
You don't have maybe the upside that you like. Big play upside is some of the top wide receivers like Tyreek Hill. But you've got a guy that's going to have a lot of targets and a guy that does well over the middle of the field and everything like that. So I like Puka Nacua. Let's head into the top 10, ladies and gentlemen.
Before you bring up the top 10, unless you already did.
I already did.
Can we tell everybody hit the like button if you're enjoying the live stream for the rankings? Hit that like button. It's free and easy to do. Let's get some more people in here. We're going to be hitting that chat right as soon as we get through this top 10.
At number 10, A.J. Brown. I think there's still a sour taste in the mouth of Philadelphia and how last season ended. And A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts both are going to want to redeem themselves. You've bolstered the run game. The offensive line is still going to be good. A.J. Brown, he's going to have a week every now and then where he completely disappears because someone else gets the targets. But more times than not, A.J. Brown's going to be there to win you a week.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? It's a tale of two seasons almost every year for A.J. Brown. Half his games are great, half his games are bad. But his great games are matchup winning. That's not going to change. And like you said, I think trying to make a comeback here this year after the disappointment of last year is going to be on everybody's mind in Philadelphia.
At number 9, Garrett Wilson could have one of the biggest jumps of any player from 2023 to 2024. Let's just see a full season of him and Aaron Rodgers, and things could really go big. I would actually love it if Mike Williams could stay healthy all season long, because it would help take a little bit of pressure off Garrett Wilson, give him some more one-on-one matchups.
And if he doesn't, maybe Malachi Corley can be a thing in this offense, because he's definitely somebody who can take away some of that pressure as well. I think Garrett Wilson, if you look at the quarterback play he had last year, arguably the worst we've seen any team have in forever, and he's still a 1,000-yard receiver. I mean, that tells you right there what kind of part of this offense he's going to be. If Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy, we already know he loves himself some Garrett Wilson. The sky's the limit for this because we haven't seen his ceiling yet.
At number 8, Amon-Ra St. Brown. He may be the safest wide receiver to draft. Ben Johnson back for another season. You're still going to have Jameson Williams and Sam Laporta and Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. You already mentioned the best offensive line in all the NFL. Jared Goff. There's not too many offenses better than the Detroit Lions. And Amon-Ra St. Brown got a brand new spanking contract for a reason. This guy just does everything.
I mean, 14 points a week, Kyle. He's going to go out there each and every week. One way or another, he's going to score you 14 fantasy points a game. It may be pretty, it may be ugly. It doesn't matter. It's still going to be there at the end of the day.
At number 7, Ja'Marr Chase. And really, Ja'Marr Chase is based on Joe Burrow. And let me mention right now, Joe Burrow does concern me just a little bit. This injury that he had to his wrist is not typical in a quarterback. And there is some issues with like strength in the wrist and the hand after having it repaired. He's working through things still right now with the team at training camp. Well, not training camp, but he's at rookie camp and OTAs and everything. So we'll see what happens. But Ja'Marr Chase, if Burrow is fine, will also be fine.
I think we know that, right? If Burrow is good, Chase is good, right? Because if Burrow is healthy, we know where he's going more times than not. It's to Ja'Marr Chase. I don't think we have to sell him on anybody at this point.
I'm going to go Justin Jefferson here at number 6. If he had maybe a more established quarterback, maybe he would be at number 2 behind Christian McCaffrey for us. But I think Sam Darnold and or JJ McCarthy will get the job done because Justin Jefferson still ate at the end of last season with the garbage that they had at the position after Kirk Cousins got hurt. And what they have now is better than that. So I still anticipate Justin Jefferson being just fine.
Yeah, if people weren't really worried about Jefferson with Jaron Hall or Nick Mullins or anything else, I'm not worried about J.J. McCarthy or Sam Darnold to the point of thinking that Justin Jefferson isn't going to get 10 targets a week. He's still going to get a ton of volume, and that's why he's still this high.
At number 5, Breece Hall. Took him a little bit of time to get going last year, but when he did, you saw the upside. And he was a guy that I talked about being, if he was healthy all last season or the season before, if he didn't have that ACL tear, he probably would have been the number 1 overall pick in 2023. But he had that tear, goes down, comes back, finally gets his strength back, looks really good, and now we're looking at him in the top 5.
And honestly, I mean, I think the sky is the limit for Breece Hall. I think he takes a step backwards this year in the pass-catching game. He was dumped off to a ridiculous amount last year by the hodgepodge of Jets quarterbacks. But where he loses it in the passing game, his touchdown upside is going to make up for that because now we have an offense with a quarterback that can hopefully move. Any quarterback, I think, can move the ball better than what we saw last year for the Jets. If he gets more touchdown opportunities, it's only going to raise that floor each and every week and make the ceiling even higher.
And a guy that Jake and I talked about, because I even said to Jake, I was like, do we go Bijan? Do we go Breece? What do we feel? And at the end, we said, why does it really matter? Because these guys are interchangeable. If you want Breece over Bijan, do that. If you don't, go with Bijan. Both of these guys are probably having the same floor, the same ceiling, same issues in terms of what could happen or what might. Both of these guys are right there.
100%. I mean, we can go right into Bijan here next. And a lot of people disappointed. Last year, we made a video on players that could kill your fantasy team. Bijan was on there. Now, obviously, he didn't have a horrendous season, right? But, I mean, nowhere near the production that he should have had from where people were drafting him.
Some horrendous weeks.
Yeah, 100%. A lot of that with Arthur Smith, now that he's gone. Bijan isn't the problem. The offense was the problem. Now, if the offense is different, hopefully we see the ceiling of Bijan.
At number 2 and 3, CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill. And these are 2 other guys that, again, are interchangeable. Why do we have CeeDee Lamb over Tyreek Hill? Kind of talked about it a little bit. CeeDee Lamb is probably going to be the guy in that offense. He's going to see the targets. Does Tyreek Hill have a little bit more big play potential? Absolutely. Could go over 2,000 yards. We know that was a goal last year, 1,700 in back-to-back years. But again, when you take a look at both of these guys, I don't think you really can go wrong with either of them.
Yeah, that's why all these guys are this high, right? Is because it's kind of, pick your poison. Which one do you want? Which one do you feel better about? Because I don't think we could look at CeeDee Lamb or Tyreek Hill, either one of them, and say anything negative as to why you should not draft either one of these guys. And because of that, That's why they're at number 2 and 3. Volume is going to be there. Yardage is going to be there. Touchdown upside is going to be there. I mean, it's exactly what you want from a pick this high from both these guys.
And at number 1, Christian McCaffrey. And I think he has earned being here for another season. I think there's always going to be concerns over workload. And does he break down again the way that he did back when he was in Carolina? And yeah, it could happen. But we're in a world now where it can happen with any player at any given time. He has earned the number 1 spot. And if he's healthy for a full 17-game season, does he walk away with the top overall player and the top RB1 spot the way he did last year? No, I think Bijan and Breece give him a little bit more run for his money, but he's still going to be right up there.
Yeah, I mean, when the guy's on the field, he's scoring 20-plus points a week consistently. And, knock on wood, he's been fairly healthy since joining the San Francisco 49ers and has been out there each and every week putting up massive points. There's no reason for us to go anywhere else than him right here at number 1 as of right now.
Analytics off the chain, all the channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game.